What if I told you there was a simple way to improve your outcomes to achieve higher levels of success in your marriage and friendships? But not only that, your actual health, your physical health, your income, and your work, your professional life. So I'm going to tell you about my new line of supplements. No, I'm kidding. What we're going to talk about in this video is the surprising connection between happiness and success. Because we tend to think, don't we, most of the time, that it's just, well, yeah, once I'm kind of successful, then I get happy. I get happiness. It's almost as if we kind of bust our asses our whole lives. We get our degree, we get a good job, we get promoted, we settle down, we get the family, we get everything. And then I don't know if is there some sort of form you fill out with the IRS or something? I don't know, but you get you check it off and you basically you're declared successful. And then it's like, yes, here is happiness. But I think you and I both know it doesn't always work that way. But when you look at the literature, you start to find an interesting pattern. So this was somewhat popularized. You may have heard about it in a book called The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor, a researcher. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper in this video, and we'll talk about three main areas here into the science behind this. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is a meta-study. Now, meta-studies are fascinating because what they are is a study of studies. So if you think about one study, they do an experiment or they look at something. A meta-study takes a bunch of different studies and kind of looks at all of them and says, what are the common patterns we can find? And so this one is titled, The Benefits of Frequent Positive Affect. Does Happiness Lead to Success? It's by Diener and Lyubomirsky. Now, positive affect, all that means is an abundance of positive emotions. It can be a variety of positive emotions. And when you have all those together, that's what we would call happiness. So if you feel more, you tend to feel joyful, you tend to feel excited, you tend to feel at peace, you tend to feel relaxed. It doesn't have to be happiness in like one definition of I'm just like that. Usually those people often are not the happiest. But it's experiencing this wealth of positive emotions and well-being. And they looked at the research, hundreds of studies, I think over 200,000 participants within all of those studies. And what they found is exactly what I said at the start of the video, that people who tend to be happier or have more positive emotions show better outcomes consistently with marriage, friendship, income, work performance, and health. So pretty incredible. And I'm going to share three more studies on this that, again, kind of continue this line of reasoning and actually get very interesting. So one study they looked at, they had people volunteer to be exposed to the common cold. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how the hell they got people for that study. Can you imagine them calling and you're like, hey, would you like to come down to the lab this week and get sick? And you're like, well, I didn't have any other plans this weekend, so that sounds kind of good. But that's what they did. They got people to do this. And they measured their emotional tendencies for a couple weeks leading up to it. They exposed them to the virus, and then they measured how sick they got or how they responded to that exposure. What they found is that people who tend to be happier, have more positive emotion, had an improved immune response. So they were less likely to get sick, and they showed fewer symptoms of being sick. You think that's kind of strange? Well, here's another study. So this paper, I'm going to actually read off the title because it's an interesting name. Positive emotions broaden the scope of attention and thought-action repertoires. So in this study, they do something called priming, where you essentially kind of set people up emotionally by showing them images or videos, but they flash them up really, really quick. So people don't really know that they're being emotionally manipulated. But they are. So you may be sitting in front of a screen, smiling baby, oh, happy movie, funny joke, blah, blah, whatever. And it's sort of priming you for positive emotion. And they do the same thing with negative emotion, where you're showing them these clips that are maybe startling or a little sad or a little gross. And so you're primed negatively. Well, and then they put people through this test where they have a screen and they're flashing up different things and seeing how they respond. And it was shown that people had actually a broadened scope of attention. And what's more, when you think about that phrase they use of thought, action, repertoires, that's essentially responses to different problems or situation. So not only you have an expanded visual field, expanded perspective and perception, You also have kind of more creative or a wider range of responses to various problems or situations just by changing your emotional state. And then a final study that I think is absolutely incredible speaks to this not being just a moment to moment thing, but over the long term. How does this affect not only your professional performance, but also the type of person you are as a professional? And this study is called Happy Soldiers Are Highest Performers, and it's from the University of Pennsylvania. And they took a sample, get this, 908,096 U.S. Army soldiers. Hell, I didn't even know there were 1 million people in the U.S. Army. That's pretty incredible. And they looked at, again, their positive emotions or happiness. So positive affect, which is how you tend to feel about things, and then optimism, which is sort of like happiness applied to the future. You know, how positive are you in your orientation toward the future? They mapped all this out, and then they looked at over their careers their likelihood of receiving awards for performance or courage or heroism. You know, think of like a Purple Heart or a Medal of Honor. And what do you think they found? Well, exactly that those who had a higher baseline level and tended to be more positive, more optimistic, etc., were far more likely to win awards for courage, performance, heroism, etc., over the course of their long military careers. So when we think about those three specifically, pretty interesting science there, and it all ties back to those same results I said initially, that in that meta study, that study of studies by Diener and Lyubomirsky, what we tend to find is that it is not what we tend to think. That, yeah, you know, if I'm just successful and I got to get things done and I got to get that promotion and settle down and have the big house with the white picket fence and like successful and I'm happy. Not necessarily saying those things are bad things or they're going to make you unhappy. But to the contrary, it's actually happiness, the positive emotion, optimism, well-being that sets the foundation for success in all those other areas. So when you're thinking about how to improve your quality of life, you know, improve ultimately your happiness, it's kind of interesting because a lot of times we think, I maybe want to be a little happier, have a better life. I'm going to focus on achieving and being successful. And that's all fine. Achievement's a valid construct as part of most models of happiness and well-being. But really it's our happiness now, our emotional mastery, our sense of optimism and psychological resiliency that ultimately sets us up to get those better life outcomes. So if you found this interesting, as always, you can check us out for more science-based tools and practices and insights to help you be at your best in both work and in life. And this has been Jackson Kirchis, by the way, partner at Happiness Means Business, along with Paul Krismer. And we'll see you here in the next video or on one of our live video podcasts that we do every month where one of us or one of our expert guests will break down the science of happier work. So I'll see you next time.